This lovely little missal, which was given to me by the good sacristan of the nuns in what is now Silverstream Male Monastery. In those days when we started, it was the Visitation Convent still, and she's since gone to her reward. But it's lovely, and I like to use it, partly because it's idiot-friendly. It has pictures, suits me to the ground. And on this day we have two pictures. Oriental style. This servant, coming before his lord, looks like an Eastern magnate, and he's in this posture. Then the next caption is this one. This other poor servant is coming to him in the cellar, and he's throttling him. Do we think that we're not in that brigade? A perfect example. We spend much time criticizing, demolishing, gossiping about, colporting the same, while we don't actually see that we need mercy. The truly humble soul knows himself and has a different attitude towards others. There's an old saying in French, tout savoir, c'est tout pardonner. To know all, that is to understand all the details, is to forgive all. We need to learn the art of stepping into the skin of the person right there before me, and to be a little merciful. Do you know that this cancer of unforgiveness is one of the main ones that the demon makes use of to make us grow spiritually ill and eventually even to backfire completely? Listen to this. I just quote one sentence of this testimony which I've given to you before, of the good Indian priest, Father Joseph, who died in a motor accident. He was actually on a motorbike on the way to Mass, not long after his ordination. He was shown the other side, and when he was shown hell, he was shown why people were down there. I saw people whom I knew, but I am not allowed to reveal their identities. The sins that convicted them were mainly abortion, homosexuality, euthanasia, hatefulness, unforgiveness, and sacrilege. The angel told me that if they had repented, they would have avoided hell and gone instead to purgatory. Unfortunately, in Ireland, one still quite often comes across this situation. People going each Sunday to Holy Mass, but not handling for years on end a situation where, as they would say, oh, we don't talk to that part of the family, or I don't talk to such and such. It's just never handled. The status quo goes on, perhaps until death. And do you know that in a way, the same sort of dynamic could take place in holy communities, in inverted commas, which is quite nonsensical when one thinks about it. People giving their life to prayer, worship, praise of God, and they can't get the human relationships right. It's contradictory. This has a double effect. It contaminates the atmosphere. It contaminates also our soul. Life in this dysfunctional mode of never handling a relationship is felt in the air, actually. But it's also damaging profoundly our relationship with our Maker. There's a bit not handed on. It's a lurking cancer, never treated. It has happened people have actually been allowed to make it known that their soul was lost, and this has been one of the issues behind it. A certain Father Nierenberg mentions a person who gave this message from the beyond and was obliged to reveal the cause. It was a young man. Now listen to this bit, because it could be a bit Irish. He was leading an apparently Christian life, but he had an enemy whom he hated. And notice, while frequenting the sacraments, he all the while harboured in his heart sentiments of ill will and, notice, revenge. That quite often can be indirect, e.g., whenever a person comes up in conversation, the reaction would be to knock him on the head, even in his absence. Which Jesus Christ commands to be discarded. After his death, he appeared to his Father and told him that he was damned. Now the word damned comes from the Latin damnare, which means to lose. So he's lost. Lost. It's a terrible thing to say. A lost soul didn't make it. Why? For not having forgiven his enemy. After which he exclaimed with an accent of unutterable sorrow, "Ah, if all the stars in heaven were so many tongues of fire, they could not express what torments I endure." Quite unnecessarily. All that was needed was an act of will. I forgive. I let go. I move on. One moment in which he was stuck is stuck with him forever. We tend, therefore, sometimes to belittle this kind of thing, which is quite interior. Other things, too, in our day are brushed aside, never handled. Not even thought about, actually. Although it's slightly different, it's the same sort of surprise coming from the beyond, so I quote this, which comes right after it. It's the same author who goes on. An unhappy man who had the habit of taking pleasure in immodest thoughts, fell sick and received the last sacraments. The next day, his confessor, going to visit him again, saw him on the road coming to meet him. "Go no further," he said to him. Listen to this. "I am dead and damned." "How? Did you not make a good confession of your sins?" "Yes, I made a good confession, but afterwards the devil represented to me sinful pleasures and asked me whether, in case of a cure, I should not return again to my pleasures. I consented to these evil suggestions. What have these in common? They're invisible, they're all in the head. And at that same moment, death surprised me. A third and final one, from the same author. There was a noble lady who was, notice, exceedingly pious. And she asked God to make known to her what displeased His Divine Majesty most in persons of her sex. The Lord vouchsafed in a miraculous manner to hear her. He opened under her eyes the eternal abyss. There she saw a woman, a prey to cruel torments, and in her recognized one of her friends, a short time before deceased. This sight caused her as much astonishment as grief. The person whom she saw damned did not seem to her to have lived badly. Then that unhappy soul said to her, "It is true that I practiced religion, but I was a slave of vanity, ruled by the passion to please. I was not afraid to adopt indecent fashions to attract attention, and I kindled the fire of impurity in more than one heart." Ah, if Christian women knew how much immodesty in dress displeases God. She was lost for something that we don't even think about, and we men don't even blink an eyelid at when we open the computer and just accidentally stay in the margin when something naughty